Okay, so now you've gotten your supplies. I'm just going to show you a few things that I want you to do with these supplies. Well, you should have your sketchbook put together or a sketchbook, and you should have one of these tempera cakes in your kit, and you have a container of gelato. Um, that is empty that I want you to use for your water container. I did not have one for myself, so I just have this little water tray right here. Um, you should have paint brushes, different kinds, and a paint palette, all kinds of things, and your pencil kit. So what I want you to do is take your pencil, maybe with your HB pencil. You're gonna draw this little grid out. And this is for beginners in painting. Some of you have been painting already and you know what to do with these things and you know what they all are, so you will be doing something separate. But to begin with, I'm going to set all these things aside. I want you to make this little visual organizer where maybe across the top, you don't need to measure it out or anything. It doesn't have to be perfect. But maybe a third of the page is this column, and then a third here, and then maybe let's split this in half. And you're gonna put here brush name and drawing. And then here you want to put marks, description, marks, description of marks, and then what I would use this brush for, or use. Just simply keep it use. So what I want you to do in this first column called brush name is, let's say I'm going to choose this brush. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little drawing of the brush. So it's kind of got this square edge or tip. And then I'm drawing the little hairs so you know that's the brush part. And then draw in the ferrule. This metal part is the ferrule that holds the brush hairs together on the handle. Okay, so, and this brush is called a flat. You should have a large flat and a small flat. So yours may not be this large, it may be about half the size or 2/3 of the size, but everyone will have two sizes of flat brushes. Then you should have a angular shader. So I'm going to do a drawing of my angular shader, and that's going to look like at an angle. It's going to look like the flat brush, only it's got an angled edge. And then I'm going to draw in the ferrule, the metal part, and label it angular shader. Okay, so I just went ahead and skipped all the drawing, but this is what it's going to look like. And these are the different brushes that you have in your toolkit. So this is for the painting class. If it's the AP class, yours will be slightly different and you'll have to adjust your drawings from there. So first of all, there are these brushes, 2 flats, 1 angular shader, 2 rounds of different sizes, a liner brush, which is a finer, thinner brush, fewer hairs but longer, and a filbert, which is one of my favorites, which is kind of a blend between the flat and the round, where it's a flat brush, but it's rounded on the flat side. That makes sense. A fan brush, a wash brush, which is big and poofy and holds a lot of water, and then a sponge brush, and a palette knife and a toothbrush. Okay, so after we get all these put away, make sure to keep it in your case. Like, keep your case upright so that you can rest your art brushes in the case. I don't have one because I gave them all to you, but I'm on my way to getting one of these days so I can show them to you in the demonstrations. Okay, so first of all, what we want to do is get this in the light. So under marks, I'm going to get my flat brushes, my 2 flat brushes, and what you're going to do is you're going to take your tempera cake. That's what they're called. They're dry. But what you want to do is add water to it. So I'm just going to take my water container and just pour a little water into the tempera cake. And tempera is like a fancy version. Well, actually not a fancy version. It is kind of like a water-soluble, opaque watercolor. And what you do is once you add water, you're just going to kind of swirl that around there. And the more you blend it in, the more opaque the watercolor will be. So this is not very much blended in, but it's pretty opaque. And I'm going to keep mixing it so that I get a nice deeper opaque red. Okay, and then as you can see, the mark that this flat brush makes is squarish at the tip. I can also drag it this way and make a thin line. I can try and make dots with the corner. So I'm turning it on its side. I can do zigzags pretty well. You can try this out with your larger flat brush. Also, just know that everything will be much bigger. But I want to try making as many marks as I can with just this small brush. Maybe some hatch marks. See how that looks. So in the marks section, you're going to try and make as many different marks as you can. So we can try and do some calligraphy with it. That looks awesome. Something else I want to try is have a paper towel or a napkin ready. I'm just going to dry it out and see what it looks like. There we go, with a little bit dried out. So I'm getting lots and lots of texture out of this. So this is more of a dry brush. This is a wet on wet technique. I'm going to dry that out even more and see what happens if I just kind of scribble it around. So really light. And if I add more pressure to it, the darker it becomes. But then, I can like make it a little cloudy. Just try it out. Different ways that you can make marks with your brush. And then I'm going to rinse it off and dilute the pigment, and then here I can get lighter values of this type of marking. So you can play with this many ways. When you are done with your brush, you're definitely going to want to rinse it thoroughly in the water. And do not do this. Do not like leave your brush in the water like that. That is a big no-no. These aren't very expensive brushes, and the glue that holds the ferrule to the handle will just loosen, and then you'll lose the tip, and then we just have to either hot glue it back on or use some super glue. When you are done rinsing it off, put it through a paper towel or a napkin or whatever you've got, and reshape it, and then put it back into your brush holder. But don't close it up because it's still dry or still drying. So then you're going to populate the rest of this with different marks. Okay, so now you've got a sampling of all the different brushes and what they can do for you. The last one I want to show you, the last two I want to show you are the palette knife and the toothbrush. Yours might look different. Yours might be a metal one. Most likely it's metal. Most of them I replaced, so they're long and slender, but they pretty much do the same job. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my little tray of tempera paint and kind of dip the edge of the palette knife in here, scrape up some of that paint, just blend it a little bit. So just get some on there, and let's see what this thing can do. So I'm just going to cut like a knife. Oh, look at that, how nice and sharp those straight lines are. Maybe if I didn't move it to left or right. So this is cool. You can create a bunch of really thin lines. So if you're doing a lot of architectural painting, those would be great details on, like, wood or like barnwood slats or something like that. Let's try what this would look like if we tried it like a butter knife. So kind of laying it flat and then smearing it. Okay, so that's good right there. I think Bob Ross uses this technique to make snow on the sides of mountains. So let's see if we can get a Bob Ross technique going here. I'm not going to press down so hard. There we go. We get a little bit more texturing right there if we just kind of drag it across and not pressing it down. So we can get like different kind of abstract textural effects with that. And just kind of wash that off and dry that off. Make sure it's nice and clean before it goes back in your palette. I got to clean that much better. But look at my paper towel. It's all dried up. I'm going to grab another one. But yeah, my water is also pretty dirty, so I'm going to have to rebrush these or rewash these brushes. Yeah, and it might just stain your palette knife. The next thing I'm going to use is this toothbrush. What the heck is a toothbrush doing in with art brushes? Well, pretty much anything that can help you make a mark is an artistic tool. So I'm just going to take the toothbrush here, soak up some of that water, and just kind of brush it across this to pick up some of that pigment, like you're brushing teeth, only it's a big red cake in a box. Okay, so that's pretty good. It's all loaded up. And some of you might have done this before, some of you might not have, but this is going to get a little messy, so you might not want to have clean clothes or like your other objects nearby. But I'm going to take it like this, hold the toothbrush with my thumb ready on it right here, and I'm pointing down this way, and I'm pretty sure you know what's going to happen. We are going to splatter paint. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I love that effect. And, it just gets my thumb here all bloody. Well, you probably don't have red, but let's see what else it can do. Yeah. So yeah, if you want like a bunch of textures and weird markings, toothbrush is a really good tool for a lot of, texturing. So that's that for the mark making.